There we go.
Thank you, Allison.
Okay, so let's kick this off. We'll start. So the topic of today's webinar is the top 3 ways to increase enrollment. Jonathan and I have been discussing these topics for the last few weeks, and I've also, very more recently been working with a number of schools on enrollment, and we want to offer some new information on this topic, and it's I think things that are hopefully going to be very actionable that you can takeaways that you can actually implement in the short term. If you take a look at this picture, we talk to school people, heads of schools, directors of communication, directors of admissions, and the folks that we talk to, what they tell us is that that they've got a lot going on. Very, very busy people, and there's so much to manage, and everybody is generally doesn't have enough time in the day, and this type of imagery is what comes to my mind. And if you notice, there's papers and calendars and binders and piles of sticky notes or whatnot. All the while there's this computer sitting there, beside her that can actually help manage all this stuff much more efficiently. Can take a lot of the same tasks, and with the right software or the right approach, can reduce the kind of the workload and hassle down to a fraction of the amount. So you're in the right place if you wish that relying on word of mouth referrals was enough to keep your school full and with a healthy waiting list, but that it's not. And if you want to fill your school to capacity and have a waiting list that is always filling up, as we know, waiting lists, they shrink, and a waiting list for all of your program levels, not just preschool. And if you'd like to spend more time on higher value tasks like face-to-face conversations with parents and children. We also want to strongly encourage you to stay for the full 60 minutes of this presentation, because we are going to review a variety of solutions to the most common challenges of enrollment marketing. I'm also going to be telling you about a very exciting new pilot program that we have launched actually at Hubbly. So do stick with us till the end. And as I've mentioned, with us today, we are very honored to have the opportunity to work in partnership with Jonathan Wolf on these webinars. I'll let John introduce himself, but I want to make sure everybody knows where to find him. His website is www.jonathanwolf.org. So Jonathan, please go ahead and tell everybody about yourself. Not that you need an intro, but
well, thank you. You're all kind. Well, thank you. Well, I do a great deal of consulting work with Montessori public, charter, private schools worldwide, both in terms of program issues, classroom observations, some leadership coaching, board work, and of course, parent education. The reason I have connected with Jono is one of my passions over the last few years has been helping teachers and administrators establish stronger relationships with parents for the benefit of the child, for the benefit of the teacher, and of course for the benefit of enrollment and retention. And that kind of communications and relationship work is really important to me as a way of further supporting the child in each Montessori classroom and making the Montessori experience better for all. When I discovered Hubbly and the work that Jono had done, I realized that I'd found a really excellent online platform for optimizing parent-teacher communications. And that's really why I'm participating in this, because it just creates a good platform for everything that I believe needs to happen in the partnership between home and school. So, Jono, thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us and helping us talk about these topics. It is not enough to just get software. It's also really important to know how to use the software, and that's why we host these webinars on a regular basis, because there's the learning curve of software, and there's also the understanding of how to apply it with with its new features and its new opportunities that can really drastically reduce everybody's workload and also improve the quality of communication. So I'd like to ask everybody here today, I want to do a quick poll. I want to hear from the audience. What are you currently doing to grow your enrollment today? There's a chat box on the right side, so please just jump in there and let us know what's going on at your school. What strategies are you using to ensure you've got a consistent flow of new inquiries for the programs that you've got to fill and for those waiting lists that you want to keep up to date? What are you guys doing today? And as I said, Jonathan, I'm currently not able to see the chat box, so when you see an answer,
I'll read them off, Jono, as people come in. Absolutely.
So we'll give you a moment or two to collect your thoughts and start typing there in the chat box.
Social media. Thank you, Shannon. Not seeing anything else at the moment, Jono, but let's give it another moment or two.
Sure. Well, social media is an interesting answer because that is a very broad term. Shannon, could you tell us a little bit of what you do with social media?
See, Shannon says press releases in local paper. That's in addition to social media. Shaviva says word of mouth. Allison, let's see, yes, I can hear. So here we go. We utilize, Shannon, in response to your question, Jonas, we utilize Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay, that's certainly, those are all really great channels, and certainly Facebook and Instagram. Twitter is something I haven't personally seen be overly effective with enrollment marketing, but I would love to. It's probably, I mean, each one of those channels is a whole series of webinars in and of themselves. What we're going to be talking today is we're going to talk a little bit about how to use Facebook to give you great results. And the other thing we're going to talk about as well is how not to just use them, but also track their efficacy. One thing that I think is really important that I ask schools every day is, how much are you spending per inquiry? How much does it cost you to generate? Yes.
There were a couple more responses that you might want to dovetail to your conversation before you get into the cost factor, which is important. Becky writes, we use Wix, W-I-X, for my website and parents. Mm-hmm. Jeanette writes, I use Facebook to share precious moments.
Okay, great. So all very common tools, and this is certainly the type of information we're hearing from schools every day. So that's great. So let's move on and get into it. So if we look at some important market trends in the U.S. private school sector in general, the market has been growing while enrollment rates are declining. So what does that mean exactly? Basically, the market's growing, and that's only going to increase, right? But enrollment is getting harder and harder to maintain because the market's growing. It's becoming more competitive. So the bottom line is, and I certainly don't want to come off as cynical here, but if Montessori schools can approach running their schools a little more in a business sense, of course, not approach we're not talking about the approach of education and what goes on inside the classroom. I'm only referring to the communication side of things, meaning the marketing and the customer service. And I also want to say marketing does not just mean things that are going on outside of your school to attract new families. Marketing is also, encompasses how you're communicating with parents throughout your entire relationship, and how you're engaging them. And if there could be a bit more of a strategic approach being made, then the impact would be really, really positive. And this is not very challenging to put together once you know all the different bits and pieces. Every different business has different marketing needs. They have a different customer base. They have a different culture. They have a different landscape. And with schools, there's some pretty easy to implement strategies. And I don't mean easy to figure out, but they're easy to implement if you know what you want to do. So fixing this challenge of enrollment is, once it's clear, it's really easy to implement and see the results. And it really just takes having a framework. Most Montessori schools today want to increase their enrollment numbers, or at least want to increase the number of inquiries of families that are actually looking for a school like theirs, rather than parents that are obviously just looking for anything. Because I'm sure I don't have to tell anybody here that parents that are more in line with the values of the Montessori method are really the ones that are more likely to stay and won't leave after 1 or 2 years, and maybe cause some problems and even take some families with them when they go. And so the best way to feel really confident about having a system that communicates with the parents that aren't necessarily the best fit, to giving them a path to to identify that they're not the right fit for the school, and to feel really good and secure in doing that. The most important thing is to make sure you have enough inquiries coming in, so really you're not in a position where your back is up against the wall. So when set up properly, your school's website should be getting found by prospective families, and it should be increasing the number of inquiries of those families that are the ideal fit for your school, and then showing them very clearly how to get into your enrollment process. Another way to think about a school's website really is like a billboard. I often give this analogy when helping people understand what our customers' websites, because we provide websites. That's one of the things that Hubbly does, and and what search engine optimization features can do for them. This is one of the core features we offer, and and so everyone knows they need a website. It's hard to find a school that doesn't have a website, something online. I don't know if I've ever quite met one that has nothing. But what I find is that most school directors don't quite understand what their website is meant to do for them or how to best utilize it. So one thing that is really key about your website is how it's designed. And it should be designed with a purpose, not to really sell your school initially. Its purpose is to get the right families to inquire, and come in and meet the school with whatever method you choose, whether it's one-on-one tours or monthly information sessions or open houses. And from there to enter into your enrollment process. This is actually a really important distinction, because oftentimes what we see is schools trying to sell everybody on the Montessori method or their school, almost like they're trying to give them all of the information they need to make a final decision from first glance. And that is really what the rest of your enrollment process is for, when they come into your open house or do a tour. But the point at which they find your school online is is when it's all about getting them to that open house to enter into the process. Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, you and I are really in tune on this, Jono. The first point that you made, I want to reinforce, which is there should be some key phrases about the philosophy of Montessori, self-directed learning process, open classrooms, student-paced learning that will sort of separate the Montessorians from the non-Montessorians. It should not be a lot of information, but there should be key elements of what makes Montessori different from traditional education on your website. And I think bullet points are actually better than a long expository paragraph or two or three on the Montessori philosophy. I don't think people read those necessarily, and they won't really be able to isolate. I like that. I like the idea of a multi-age classroom, or I don't like the idea of a multi-age classroom. So I think some self-selection or self-screening using key terminology, Montessori terminology in the website is really important. And the second point that Jonah made, which I really want to reinforce, is if you run a good, authentic, impressive Montessori school with impressive environments and children who are really calmly working, teachers who are giving great lessons, that's what sells people. All websites, as in all advertising, is a call to action. Come down to our school and see what Montessori children are capable of doing, being, learning. It's always a call to action. So the two key things that Jonah is saying here, see if you can create some elements on your website that cause people to select in or select out, and then everything else is come schedule a tour or an open house today to see what is possible in Montessori learning and what Montessori children can do. That's it.
Yeah, that's great. And
one other thing, if you can obviously have some photos that really capture the joy and focus of children in a Montessori environment, whether it's individually or collectively. One of the big mistakes is we tend to take photos of sort of distance photos of children working with the Montessori material, so you don't really see the expression on the child's face, the focus, the collaboration, the sense of joy. It's more focused on the materials. You want to have the energy of the children's sort of feeling and behavior come through any graphics you have or any photos you have.
That's some really sound advice, and I have to say, it oftentimes when we do these webinars, I'm always learning something new about John's expertise here, and it's as if he works for a marketing agency sometimes. Like he moonlights as a marketing guru, I think.
Well, thanks. Just perspective, most of the stuff that I now share with schools about communications and marketing, I didn't actually know as a head of school. I learned it later from wise people.
There you go.
Passing it on.
Yeah, so you've gone through the challenges and you've come out the other side. So I just want to talk about search engine optimization for a second, because something that a lot of people everybody, I think, understands the general concept, search engine optimization, meaning you want your websites to be found in search engines. The question is, how do you approach this? And what is strategic search engine optimization? If you look at this image of a Google search, I've typed in Montessori schools in Palo Alto, because if you are being strategic about your website, if you also take a look at the website image, it's a very simple site. There is a very clear call to action, and there is not a number of links and buttons and places for people to go. The idea here is that your website, you're going to have a main homepage, but that is actually not where you want people going to when they're trying to find a school. You want them hitting what's called a landing page. So this is an example of a landing page. And a couple of elements is, the most important thing is that there's one big clear call to action. Usually it's a big colorful button that has a big primary color standing out from the other colors on your site. And that's the only action they can take on that website. You want to gently force people down the right path And there's a whole number of reasons why, but most importantly, so that it's very easy for them to figure out how to take the next step. And with search engine optimization, again, on the left side of this image, this page that we're looking at is optimized for the term, the very specific term that's in the Google search. So the name of this school is just a fake school, the Hubleyville School. I didn't type in Google, I didn't go into Google and type Hubleyville School, because if people know your school, then there's no point in really optimizing that. You want to find the people that are looking for a type of school in an area. So a Montessori school in Palo Alto, or a preschool in such and such zip code. And even before you do that, you first want to identify what are people actually searching for. On a regular basis, I have conversations with schools and they say, these are the search terms that we want to be found on. And then we do a little bit of research. We've got some tools to research the actual traffic for those searches. And usually we find that the search terms that they have identified that they want to be found on, zero people have actually performed those searches. So to spend time and money and resources on building web pages that optimize those terms is like flushing all of that down the toilet. So the first thing you want to identify is what are people actually searching for. And then these are the keywords, and then you build a page that's optimized to be found on by searches for those keywords. So very important, guys. Don't think that you want. It's very common that I talk to a school and they say, okay, they think if they do a Google search for their school's name and they see it on the top of the list, that they've conquered this task of search engine optimization. It's absolutely that's not helping you whatsoever. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to give some examples of what Jono's talking about. Again, I see a lot of schools and their primary words for their, search are Montessori schools or Montessori private schools. But think about the elements that make Montessori different. What if there are some people who look at Montessori schools because they're really interested in social development, social emotional development, social intelligence. So what if you had a keyword, schools that would come up for people who go schools that focus on social development, or schools that focus on social intelligence or emotional intelligence, schools that focus on higher order thinking, critical thinking. You want to really look at terms that certain people might be looking for. Schools that have multi-age classrooms, schools that have hands-on materials. Think about all the things that make a Montessori school unique, because you can be sure there will be people out there that will be looking for those particular unique things, and those are the hot buttons you want to hit. And if you get enough of those sort of buckets out there in terms of search terms, you'll get a much wider array of people, number one, inquiring, and number two, since you've defined certain key elements of Montessori, like developmental in addition to academic as an example, or social skills, you're going to get people who are already more resonating with the developmental foundation of Montessori, that are not over-amped about testing and academics, because you've created those buckets for people to respond to.
Yeah, that's a really important point, you want to attract people by talking about values and using terminology that they understand. Much in a previous webinar, Jonathan made a great point relating it to the concept of following the child. Your marketing kind of needs to follow the parents. Your real marketing does not necessarily promote the features, rather the benefits or the values,
right?
So that it speaks to anybody, because they're not Montessori experts. They haven't read all the books necessarily, but they might be a perfect fit for your school.
But they're looking for something in particular. A few other things that come to mind. You might have some people that are interested in peace education. That should be a term. Schools that focus on ecology, earth stewardship. Schools that focus on leadership. Schools that focus on community service. All of those are going to attract people, and all of those are part of the Montessori experience. Schools that focus on social justice, schools that focus on nonviolent communications. The more of those you put up based on the nature of your Montessori experience, the more you're going to draw people who go, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So it's not really about Montessori, as Jono says, it's about Montessori values and vision.
That's great. So the other thing you should do is be blogging. It's one of the best ways to engage prospective parents and draw them in, again, into the pathway to get into your admissions process. Your blog is a great place to answer common questions that prospective parents have. And there's a lot of ways to use a blog, many great strategies. But one thing is really important here, and it's something that is not so obvious, but maybe the most important rule about blogging is to be incredibly consistent above anything else. So whether your school is just starting a blog, or you stopped and you want to dust off the cobwebs and get it started again, one of the biggest things to keep in mind is consistency. And this is a generalism with online marketing, and maybe any marketing, is that you really want to be delivering some sense of trust that just kind of goes through everything. And when people come to a website or a blog, that trust is built with a vision of consistency. So it doesn't mean you have to post every week and make it a challenging task that might not be realistic. You just need to keep a regular schedule and stick to it.
Jono, there's a little piece of research on that. We've talked about this before in other webcasts. There's fairly solid research, folks, in advertising, in print advertising, that it's not the full page ad that runs once every 6 months or every other month, the great big ad that everybody sees on a page. It's actually the smaller size ads that run more frequently. It's that principle of consistency that the more the brain sees it, the more they go, there's that Montessori school again. And the other aspect of consistency is what I like to call qualitative or semantics. The language should be similar. There should almost be a pattern language, whether you're bringing in the words self-directed or self-organizing or independence or, again, critical thinking, leadership. There should be certain themes that keep on popping up that make your Montessori school unique or will draw people out. So it's both the regularity and it's kind of like, I keep on hearing these wonderful terms about, for me, just to be very specific, then I'm going to hand it back to Jono. I think almost once in every blog, just like on a website, there should be something. This is what children did today in this school. We had 5-year-olds working with fractions, or we had 3-year-olds making peace, or whatever it is. There should be little vignettes that show what children are capable of, and then there should be an invitation. Come down and see what Montessori children can do at our school. So again, it's vignettes that make people go, wow, those kids at that age are doing that socially, emotionally, academically. I got to go see that school. I got to schedule a tour. And that's really where you're going in terms of consistency of message and frequency of message.
All very, very, very good points. And certainly this is a very, the things that Jonathan is touching on here are much, they're actually quite important, and especially when you're working on a more long tail strategy, and so there are books written about this stuff. I mean, it's there's PhDs. People can get a PhD in these concepts that Jonathan's talking about, but on a more kind of short term result, if you think about it for a second, just to scale it down a bit, the scope of the topic, how bad does it look if a parent goes to your blog and they see articles on a sporadic timeline? One post this month, 2 the next month, nothing for 3 months. This is where the trust can get lost, because you always want to make sure you're presenting yourself as anything that you present, it's putting the good foot forward, so to speak. But even if the blog articles are great, there's a loss of a sense of stability and consistency and organization with a blog that's sporadic. And that's why it's so crucial. So not only do you want to be hitting people on a regular basis, so a blog should also be a newsletter that gets sent out to people on a regular basis. But if they're actually looking at your list of articles, it is really helpful to create that sense of trust if there's a consistent timeline there. It just shows a great organization. So, just as an action tip, this is where you really want to pull out your pens here. If you can agree on a theme each week and maybe ask your team members to come up with something relevant to match, this makes it much easier to decide what to discuss, right? If your teachers, if you can delegate and work as a team, it's really easy when everybody can come together. So you just assign every staff member a different week to post something, and it becomes a very manageable task for everybody. And that way, whoever's quarterbacking it and maybe responsible for it has help. And with a little schedule, you can really very easily accomplish the value that you would get out of a consistent content strategy.
Jono, there's a couple leadership ways or facilitation ways I've seen to kind of motivate teachers or nudge teachers to participate and present something on a blog. I think a really great staff conversation among faculty led by a head of school or instructional leader is, so given the age children that you teach and given what you know about their parents, what are parents most anxious about? What are they most interested in? What are they most confused about? What are the parents' hot buttons? And you'll get teachers sharing ideas. Well, the toddler parents are really concerned about separation. The early childhood parents, the children's house parents are concerned, when is my child going to start reading? So people will share these ideas in these meetings about this is what we're seeing in parents. You can then go, wow, that's a great idea, Jono. Would you be willing to talk about that for a little bit, or write about that, I should say, in a blog? And so you're enlisting teachers' ideas, and out of that, you're inviting them. That's a little stronger model than assigning people, because they will be resistant to an assignment, but they're more open to an invitation based on an idea that they've come up with and that they're interested in already.
That's a phenomenal idea, and I love the approach for sure. And I can tell you, as a parent of I've got two toddlers basically, and my 2 and 3/4-year-old was dropped off for the first time at a summer camp for a week, and we certainly would have loved an article on separation. Thankfully, my wife is an amazing early childhood educator herself, and if it was just left to me, I probably would have ended up running in there and taking her back out and promising never to do it again. But
so, Jono, did your wife help you with your separation anxieties?
Not me, but she handled it. I learned from watching. She's a great example. And what Jonathan was just talking about leads perfectly into this next topic. Well, actually, he might have just summarized it better than I was going to do. But you want to make sure that you're writing about content that's relevant to your parents. If you think about your blog or your newsletter, it could really be its own value that is just a gift you're giving out for free that people will read, whether ideally you want to get it out to the right parents that you hope to enroll into your school, but it should be something that they would just read otherwise. It should be something that they would pick up on a magazine rack and maybe pay a few dollars for. And there's no question that all the experience and wisdom within your school could easily put together a list of articles on these topics that would be so helpful to parents. And that's kind of the goal with content marketing. It's taking something that would be otherwise, people would be otherwise happy to pay for, because they're going to get such useful, actionable information. And that's really the key here, useful and actionable. It should be utility-driven information, something that they can take home and practice with their children that night.
Jono, the key areas there are, if I were to list them, parents are most interested in effective, successful parenting. That is, helping their child do this when they need them to do that. So parenting tips and linking it to, this is how we do this excellent redirection of behavior or motivation in the Montessori classroom. Try this at home. They're also really interested in what's normal and natural for a given age group, the characteristics of children at different ages, so they understand. I mean, as a real quick example, children like to hear the same story over and over again when they're young children because they like to repeat. They're process learners. Parents don't know that, so when they try to push a child to a new story, it's like, no, the kid wants to hear the same story. So parenting, characteristics of learning, what they're learning in a classroom is more important than how we actually teach them. They're interested in the how of parenting, but they're actually interested in what will a child at this age be expected to learn and master. And those are the areas of focus. We tend to get too involved in Montessori process, pedagogy, instruction, which is not actually what the parents are interested in. They're not interested in the Montessori environment. They're interested, what are you going to do for my child and make me a more effective parent?
Those are some great thoughts there. Thank you very much. And you also want to think about what I call, or what not I call, but marketer lingo, is the middle of the funnel. So at the top of the funnel, that's what the content and the newsletter and the search engine optimization, and also your advertising, Facebook ads. I think Facebook ads are the most incredible thing since sliced bread for enrollment marketing. That's the top of the funnel. And then when they enter into your admissions or enrollment process, that's what we call the middle of the funnel. If you really want to simplify your parent communication and the workload around it, you're going to want to set up some automated workflows to handle the tasks that you repeat on a regular basis. So this is what we're looking at here. And I just want to actually confirm, I had a bit of a technical issue for a second with a cable. Is everyone, John, are you seeing my screen okay? Is everyone seeing the screen all right?
Yeah, you're fine, Jono.
Excellent. So this is an example of a system we built for a Hubbly customer in the Hubbly system. It's one of the tools that we offer, compiling a few different features like digital forms and newsletters and our scheduling, our appointment booking system. So,
Jono,
yes.
Did you just change your screen from write useful parent focused content? Because what I'm seeing is still write useful parent focused content. I'm not seeing your flow chart.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's
that former slide on parent focused content.
Okay. Let's do a quick check here. Okay.
Not yet. I saw a few photos of us. Now I'm seeing your desktop.
Perfect. Okay, and how about now? Are you seeing the work?
You got to automate. Is it automate onboarding process?
That's right. Thanks so much for letting me know. So this is an example of a workflow that we would build with our system that, again, takes the parents through from the point of inquiry through now what we call, again, the middle of the funnel. And so this is an example of an automated enrollment workflow that we recently built for one of our customers inside their Hubbly site. And the point that I want to talk about here is that your process is, I mean, every school I talk to, whether they're doing this completely manually or using some digital automation tools, it's the same process. There might be a few different scenarios, where things branch off, but even those when things branch off, the process is consistent. So when you have a system that manages it all automatically, that allows you and tracks it all so that you actually can see each stage and how it's doing and where everybody is at what stage. As an example, when somebody fills in an inquiry form and the admissions person is notified, at that point the parent could be starting to get a sequence of emails that are with content that's there to make them more interested to come in and attend an open house or schedule a tour. So it's going to give them that information. It might also, strategically, you might want to use it to help those parents identify if maybe they should be looking for a different kind of school. But most importantly, driving them with one main call to action to go to the next step, whether it be sign up for an open house or schedule a tour. And then as well, our system allows the staff to be notified when, not only when something happens, but could be reminding them of a task of an action they need to take when a prospective parent gets to a certain stage or hasn't gotten to the next stage by a certain time. So the idea here is that when all of these components can be set up to run automatically, and if they're allowing you to track where the parents are through the process, you can then get to that point of optimization.
Jono, I want to reinforce something you said, which I think the administrators who are listening or teachers will probably be able to relate to. Do you know teachers have you ever been a teacher who, for whatever reason, because you didn't see it on the board in the office, you didn't get the memo, you didn't see in the email, suddenly there are parents showing up for a tour or an observation in your classroom, and it's like children are looking up. It's like, I never heard about that. What Jono is describing here is not only are there sequences of messages to parents that keep them in the flow or have them select in and select out, which is all automated, follow up, follow up, follow up. There's also notification for teachers. So teachers can know on a given morning, I'm certainly going to be giving lessons, but I also need to make sure that I take a break, smile, and maybe walk over and greet the parent or parents who've come into the room because they have a heads up that it's going to happen. It makes it a lot easier on the teacher, and the welcome for the toured parent is much warmer. As a classroom teacher, when parents suddenly showed up to observe, and I was in the middle of lessons, I was frankly a little annoyed, and I didn't have a tendency to get up or smile or wave or greet the parent because it caught me by surprise and I was in the flow with children. You want teachers to have a heads up so they can be customer friendly and at the same time maintain the flow of their work period.
And that's just a great example of why I love working with Jonathan, because of course I'm not coming from the place of having run a school or being a teacher at a Montessori school. So those little scenarios that Jonathan teaches us allows us to help our customers avoid or create better outcomes with parent communication through all stages of the relationship. And that is something that could, I'm assuming, have a great impact on the enrollment process. If your teachers are prepared, they know the drill. They're not caught off guard, and I could assure you, and I've done a couple of tours at Montessori schools. If a teacher came up to me and shook my hand or asked me questions and was prepared to do so, that would have a really positive impact on my future relationship with that school, without a doubt.
I found that as an administrator, when I was coordinating schools, in giving tours to prospective parents, I sometimes forgot that what parents are looking for, in addition to what is my child going to learn, they're looking at the teachers to see what's the energy, the personality, the warmth of the teacher. And so it's critically important when we're giving tours that teachers have a heads up through an automated system like this and the training. Be prepared for visitors and be warm and genuine without wrecking your work period. So it's it's just great customer relations. It actually makes teachers' job easier, and you'll get more buy-in from the right parents, i.e. more enrollment.
Amazing. Thanks. So at this point, this is where I like to ask the audience, what do you think about all of this? How does this relate to you? You know, I'm not exactly sure why you showed up here today, but I bet I can guess a few things. That you want to be able to keep your school enrolled to capacity, or at least the capacity that you want, with a waiting list that is always staying at a consistent size, so you're always aware and you're just assured you're never going to be lower than your ideal capacity. And you want to have enough inquiries coming in month after month, and this is very important, month after month, not 1 month over here and then another month down the road, so that you're not afraid to turn away parents that you know aren't the best fit for your school. And you want to free up your time from the boring and repetitive and remedial activities like sorting through sheets of paper to find out where parents are in the process, so you can spend more time on higher value and enjoyable tasks like being in the classroom or being face-to-face with either prospective or enrolled parents.
Jono, let me just comment on that one really quickly. One of the big challenges of all heads of schools and principals, whether it's public, charter, or private Montessori school, is with everything we have to do, getting into our Montessori classrooms to see what's going on, give the teachers some feedback about where they can improve, notice which children need a little more support. The best Montessori schools are ones that have administrators or instructional leaders in those classrooms observing, and if because our marketing and communication system is cumbersome as opposed to automated like a Hubley system, administrators are not able to do the job that really is the job of the administrator, which is to make good teaching possible, to quote my friend Michael Eanes, the former executive director of AMS. And when you have an automated system like this, it frees you, as Jonas said, to do more instructional leadership as well as more customer or parent interface, not to mention more strategic planning.
Which has a great result on your retention rates.
And program quality.
Well, program quality, and then the obvious result being higher retention rates.
Exactly.
You know that you're capable of more. You know that you can create those results, and you just need to get some of these roadblocks out of your way, these cumbersome operational tasks. And you want to give your prospective parents a communication experience that is engaging and informative, and that makes them look forward to enrolling their children in your school. And I'm sure you're doing that already, but the goal is to do it with a fraction of the time.
Jono, can we take a moment to see if there are any questions or thoughts? We've been throwing a lot at these folks. Let's see if there's any particular questions on how to use this particular enrollment management system.
Or approach. You know, it doesn't have to be this system. The idea is it's the approach that you want to be taking. And there are options out there.
So Becky has just written, Jono, in order to keep people that would like to use credit cards, do you use a company to accommodate that so you don't lose the family that doesn't charge you a large surcharge? So it's about the use of credit cards, Jono. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, that's a very, I would say it's a very tactical question. Well, I guess it's also strategic because you're trying to, I guess, put the value of the price of using the credit card against the potential loss of that family. That's a great question. I have to say.
Respond. Tim Selden and I are developing a course at the Montessori Foundation, sort of a do-it-yourself, how to start a new Montessori school, and we were just talking about tuition intake. And Tim was adamant, you want to, even though there are interest charges, you want to allow people to pay with credit cards. It just is another way of optimizing their payments so you're not chasing after them for a check. And yes, it tends to be more expensive, but as Tim said, you can build the surcharge if they choose to use a credit card. The surcharge gets billed into their invoice or their tuition. But it makes it very convenient.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we do at Hubly actually is one of our features is tuition management. So we have an invoicing tool, and we allow schools to we allow the parents to pay with credit card, but we also allow the parents to pay with e-check, which is much less expensive. So the e-check is a much lower transaction fee. It's only 1%, and we even have a feature that through many customers requesting this, that it actually forwards the fees to the parents. So so let's just say you want to allow the parents to pay by credit card, and they want that because they love points, and even if they do it at a loss, they just want the points. It's almost like a game. So they're happy to pay the actual transaction fee themselves. The school doesn't need to incur that, and they get the points, so they're really happy. So we've developed that tool within Hubly. It's one of our components that a lot of our customers use, and they like the ability to offer their parents to pay either with online. It does auto billing, so it can just withdraw from their credit card or from their checking account every month, and the school doesn't even have to incur the transaction fee. So that's kind of the best of both worlds. That's something that we've recently launched. It's one of our newer components.
Betty has provided some resources for the group. Excuse me. She writes, I researched many payment gateways. I have found that First Data and Ignite payments tend to be the lowest credit card fees of any. So First Data and Ignite payments. Thank you, Betty. Good resources.
Thanks, Betty. Yeah. So I would, I'll check it. Betty, if you have any information, I would love to have you compare what we do at Hubly with those. That'd be really cool. We've talked a lot about these strategies on a high level. Obviously, there's only so much time here. And you've shown up here today, and you've obviously made it a priority. And, I want you to know that a real marketing strategy can change your school, and it can really change your life. But you've got to know exactly what to do at your specific school, because every school is a little different. Your neighborhood, your area, the parents in your neck of the woods, the demographics. What communication expectations do your parents have in your area? What tools do you already know and use? And can those be used more effectively, or do you need to switch to other tools? So there's so we're actually launching a pilot program, and we're offering select schools. We're offering it to not really select schools. That's not the right term. To a limited amount of schools, because this is a completely done for you enrollment marketing service. So it's a pilot program not because we don't know how to do this stuff or we're trying to figure it out. We're experts in all these areas, but it's so what we're doing is we're adding this layer of done for you enrollment, like we're managing advertising. I'll get into all this stuff, but the idea here is that you can use the Hubly system and without having to use it yourself. Essentially, it's all managed for you. So I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with me kind of switching gears here and going into tell you about this program. So I'm going to switch gears at this point and start talking about this pilot program that we're promoting. The Hubly.
Before you begin, I've got to run to another meeting. So thank you, and thank you all for participating, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. As always, it's been a great learning experience for me, and I'm sure everybody else.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Jono. You've got a great service. Take care.
Okay, all the best, John. So the Hubly done for you enrollment marketing service is really the most efficient way to grow your enrollment and reduce administrative workload. So the way we work is we start off by running surveys with the parents that you identify that you feel best fit your school, and we that survey is very strategic, and we use our findings to create Facebook ads that attract more prospects just like them. And then, of course, we also do search engine optimization. We do that research I was talking about earlier for you on your behalf. We work with you to make sure we're getting all the key values that you offer, and then matching them with search terms that your prospective parents actually are searching for. And then we build those search engine optimized landing pages so that they find you and they enter into your enrollment process. And then the Hubly system really comes into play with all of that automation. They fill out forms digitally. The entire enrollment process is done digitally. This is just an example, but we build these custom for you. Your parents also can log in and see what's left for them to complete, and the system is obviously reminding them and directing them to come back and complete whatever they need to. And it utilizes our self-booking appointment setting, which is great for school tours, also for the open houses and everything, and it sends reminders automatically, so you really get a great, more consistently, parents show up more consistently. You get less cancellations and less waiting around for parents that forgot about it. And then we build the entire automated workflow custom for you for your school. So your entire admissions process is automated, and we fine tune it with you as well to make sure that it's really saving as much time from you and your team as possible, and also coming up with ideas like Jonathan gave earlier about maybe notifying teachers in different rooms when there's a tour coming in. All that stuff could happen automatically. And we also give you reports that are simple but helpful, and let you know how every stage of your process is going, and also what parents are at what stages, so nobody ever falls through the crack. So it allows you to kind of rest assured that you don't have to remember everything in your head and worry that somebody didn't get followed up with correctly. And also, I just want to say that there's for anybody that wants to book a consultation about this pilot program. If you do that today, we'll actually send you a free download of an ebook about mastering parent engagement. It's really it's a short read, but it's all meant to be helpful tips that you can actually employ today. Actually, very very actionable information. So you can learn more about this done for you marketing service. I said we're only accepting 10, and actually I see this slide is actually out of date. I should have updated it. We originally launched this a few weeks ago. There's actually only 3 spots left right now. It's gotten a great response, and many schools have signed up for these consultations. You can do so. You can just go to hubly.com/done-for-you-marketing. So you might want to jot that down, or go ahead and type it into a web browser right now. There are only 3 spots left because, again, we can only manage so many schools right now because we're using our internal team, and we have to make sure that we don't go above our capacity to offer top tier customer service to everybody. So that's why this is a pilot program. People have been asking us to do this as a package. So we've developed this end-to-end marketing, done for you marketing service as a package that we're now offering. And to launch it, we want to make sure we do it responsibly and make sure that we can only offer top tier service. So it is limited to 10, and really there's only 3 spots left as of today. So so certainly don't wait. If you think you could benefit from help in your enrollment marketing, we'd love to talk to you. And so that's it. What I could love to do is see if there's any questions from the audience left, and I'll just put this up here for everyone to see, so that you can see that link if you want to remember it. Are there any questions here from anybody left in the in the audience would love to. I mean, we could talk about anything. Certainly, you could ask questions about this service or any of the other topics we've chatted about, SEO, Facebook ads. I could generally go on for hours about any of those. So I'd be happy to address anything or hear if anybody has suggestions that they've seen strategies that have worked for them in the past. And one thing I would actually like to ask everybody here is, with the strategies that you use that have worked, have you been able to track how much you're actually spending for the different for the inquiries? So one thing that we're doing with this enrollment service is not only are we running all these different strategies, we're sending you and building reports that actually let you know exactly how much you're spending per inquiry. And as I speak, I'm seeing that I've misspelt a word here. Usually Pat calls me on this really early. There we go. Learn more today, not lear more today. Maybe now everybody will be able to read it. And while I'm at it, I'm going to update this too. I love working on the fly like this. It's really professional. There we go. Only 3 spots available. So Betty, you said the help with blogging and keywords was especially helpful. Yeah, those are, thank you for letting me know. Those are certainly some really common mistakes that we see that people understand. It's very similar also with Facebook. People don't quite understand how to use Facebook ads to the right way. I talk to a lot of schools that are using them and they're kind of spending money and not exactly clear on the results. One thing that we are making sure we set up for schools is it's a system that is essentially what we're doing is building a self-driving car that lets you know exactly how much you're spending per inquiry and exactly how much you're spending per enrollment, so that you can actually understand and do some planning for the future based off previous metrics that you've been able to. And what you need a system. It needs to be a complete engine from end to end that tracks all that information and shows you what the metrics are around your success with those key elements: inquiries and enrollments. It's not really helpful to know, let's say you're using Facebook ads or Google ads and you're seeing, oh, we're paying this much per click. That doesn't really help you. But if your ads are integrated with a system like Hubly, we're feeding information back and forth from Facebook into the Hubly system and calculating automatically exactly how much you're spending per inquiry. And over time, that should get cheaper and cheaper. So Becky, you're asking, would it be difficult to merge my website I have to Hubly? No, actually. Depending on your needs and what your current website is and what it's doing, it might make sense to just keep it, and then we can essentially make your Hubly site an extension of your existing website. That's what a lot of our customers do. A lot of our customers also use Hubly as their website replacement because it just performs better. But if you've got a great website that's well managed and it's being optimized regularly and it's being updated and the technology is not getting out of date and there's no security issues, then great, keep it, because 2 websites are better than 1. Absolutely. I always tell people, if it's a good website, it's better to keep it. But if it's not a well-managed website, if it's not performing high, and we can help you identify that, we can do a quick assessment. Just takes a few minutes to find out how your website's doing, not just how it looks, by the way, but are all the technical elements that help search engine optimization being optimized? Are they being used properly? Does it have security? There are so many things that come into play. So many things that Google looks at to rank websites one above the other. It's not just the words on it, and that's there's a lot of information there. So we can do an assessment and help you figure that out. And we work very in regards to the website, and especially with this enrollment marketing pilot program, we're working on a very customized level with all of those customers. So something to Becky, if you want to have a consultation, we can certainly dive in and take a look and see what makes the most sense for you. It's really easy actually with the tools that we use to identify any issues that you might have, and or don't have, and then we can consult you on the most logical next step. But that's a great question. So does anybody have any more questions? This has been a phenomenal learning experience for me. It's what I love working with Jonathan Wolf. He brings in such great useful use case scenarios that I could never obviously come up with, because I haven't had the opportunity to be in the position that you guys are in. I learn from our customers, from school leaders, and from teachers, and from parents, where the challenges are, where the pain points are, and we build solutions to help with those. But but I haven't had the opportunity to be a teacher in a Montessori room, and as an example, understand that an automated reminder sent to me, or a notification letting me know in the morning that there's a tour coming in at such and such time. That would be, that's just a great nugget of information that that was shared today by Jonathan, and that would be something easily created, as one component to an automated enrollment system. Through the Hubley system, that would obviously have great impact, I think, on, speaking of as a prospective parent myself for a Montessori school, that would have great impact on where we would decide to put our child, especially if this is their potential future teacher. Having that person come up to me because they knew that I was coming in, and even, man, if they knew my name and said, "Hi, you're Mr. Landon. It's great to meet you. This is what I wanted to show you today." Wow, that would be such an incredible experience as a prospective parent. So something that, whether you use an automated system or not, that's just a great learning point, I think, for any school. And I'd love to hear if anybody here has done anything like that, or do you have other scenarios that some notifications, out to the right team members at the right time could be beneficial, as opposed to you having a stack of paper or something, or a list in your hand that you have to go run around and remind everybody. That would probably take a half an hour out of your day. Maybe this would be a great way to have a result without having to actually do the manual labor of making a list, writing it down, looking at the calendars, going up to all the teachers and telling them face to face. It never hurts to do face to face communication, but when it's unnecessary and more remedial, it just it takes people away from the programming. Okay, well, it's been a really awesome experience for me today. I hope everybody got something helpful out of this webinar. I love doing these webinars myself, especially with folks like Jonathan, and we do them with Tim Wolf. We're going to be doing some with Tim Selden. We're going to be doing some with Mark Selden as well, who's now actually he's now part of the team here at Hubley, and it's great to have him as he's a phenomenal leader and programmer as himself. And we're going to be doing a series of webinars on a weekly basis. Right now, we're really digging into enrollment strategies because of the time of year, but we'll be talking about many other topics as we go. So definitely keep your eyes out for emails from me. And I'll try not to send too many. I know I can be trigger happy with the email, so if anybody has any grievances that way, I apologize. But I really, I love sharing this content. I hope it's helpful to everybody. I really appreciate everyone for showing up today. And if you want to check out what we're doing with this done for you marketing enrollment marketing service, then just go over to hubly.com/done for you marketing, and that'll give you a place to go and book a consultation. And we'll show you more about it, and we'll take a look at what's going on. We'll do a little bit of an assessment with your existing strategies, and we'll let you know how we can help, or we'll just give you some ideas that you can take away and work with. It's if nothing else, you'll walk away with some direction and some ideas that you can implement on your own. So thanks again, and I hope everybody has a phenomenal day. I hope you're all enjoying your summer, and hopefully we'll see you next week or in the weeks to come with another webinar. All the best.